Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another very exciting Star Wars video. It is I, coming at you once again, your favourite galactic hostess, Star Wars Meg. Skeleton Crew episode 4 is just around the corner, just 2 days away, and I can't wait to break it down. But today guys, we have some pretty major Star Wars movie updates. What is Star Wars gonna do after The Mandalorian and Grogu? We have such an enormous slate of upcoming movies that we have no updates on. But there have been numerous conflicting reports from some of the writers and the actors, as well as media outlets, as to which ones Disney is prioritizing. But today we have something of a very promising update. Insider Jeff Snyder, who has been very reliable with his scoops, now says, despite claims made by Daisy Ridley just 2 weeks ago that the Rey movie's gonna start filming soon, it's Shawn Levy's Star Wars film that's coming first. And according to rumors, the Rey movie has hit another roadblock. He says, Shawn Levy's untitled Star Wars movie is the one to progress before all of the others, and the Rey movie's on hold, whereas Dawn of the Jedi by James Mangold is still on its first draft. We also recently learned Shawn Levy's Star Wars movie as the writer of the Adam Project, Jonathan Tropper, but we still have no idea what Levy's movie is about. There were 1 or 2 rumors, it was said during the sequel era, but none of those were really substantiated. And with Daisy Ridley awaiting the Sharmino Bay-Chenoy film or the Simon Kinberg trilogy to start production, it's very unlikely the Levy film features Rey. But the big update, it's the next one after The Mandalorian and Grogu to go into production. It's an interesting time to talk about this, as we approach the end of the year, and as we get to a stage where we've seen pretty much every kind of Star Wars TV show, both the good and the bad. What should Lucasfilm's approach be for the next stage of this IP? And I say this because I feel like with so many of these projects, the timing made all the difference. Because with Skeleton Crew, there's a very niche interest. People like you and me who watch everything Star Wars, but for many, including general audiences, they seem to have checked out somewhere around 2022. The show is good, but its release was positioned in a very unfortunate place. Had it come out before The Acolyte, I reckon it would have attracted a lot more fans. Even better, if they'd made this show around 2021, and it came out after The Mandalorian's first 2 seasons, I think it would have been a massive hit. Now this is all important in the context of the movie updates we have, because I'm starting to wonder if releasing The Mandalorian and Grogu as the first Star Wars movie in years is actually a pretty bad idea. Setting aside how fans felt about Season 3, these are very popular characters, but it's certainly not a Star Wars film that comes across to your average viewer as essential viewing. It doesn't have urgency, the bite, the driving oomph that makes you want to get your butt in that seat opening night. It's also got the baggage of a Disney Plus show attached to it. And I know the Mandalorian series is popular, but not everyone would have seen all 3 seasons. And even if they market it by saying, well, you don't have to have seen them, there are going to be fans that think, well, I should probably watch the show first. So it is going to drive some viewers to Disney Plus, but I think the first Star Wars movie in theaters since The Rise of Skywalker needs to be a compelling standalone. And this is why I think timing is so important. This is why I think Obi-Wan Kenobi should have been a film. Do all the nostalgia things they did in the run-up to that show, but market the return of Darth Vader on the big screen, Obi-Wan, young Luke, Owen, Beru, characters we're invested in, with a Disney budget. As Disney prepares to announce more live-action remakes no one wanted, on the Lucasfilm side of things, they're preparing for a soft reset. The Disney Plus shows will continue with some frequency, but they were generally just an interesting experiment. At best, giving us shows like Andor. At the moment, Skeleton Crew's very good, but at worst, some of the less favourable series did some real damage to the brand. But there is some good news. We're not gonna harp on about doom and gloom. According to new data from Parrot Analytics, demand for Star Wars is still there. 22% of all demand on Disney Plus is for Star Wars, but only 12% is for the new shows. So fans who love the original trilogy, love the prequels, maybe the animated shows, are still watching those, which Disney shouldn't take for granted, because if the right project were to come along, there's a good chance fans would flock back in. And not even as far as 2026. This coming year, 2025, despite having less content, should be stronger in terms of viewership. And this is why the other day, I tweeted out this. And you know guys, this is just my opinion, just my pure honesty here. Star Wars is a movie franchise. There are some good shows, but it's first and foremost meant for the big screen. Until we get a new, successful and beloved movie, the IP, the Star Wars brand, can't recover from its slump in recent years. And I stand by this statement. Die-hard fans are always going to care about Star Wars, but for a true triumph and resurgence of the brand, Star Wars needs to resonate once again with the general audience, and so there is a hope a return to the movies is going to really bring back some of the magic. And had Kathleen Kennedy decided Ewan and Hayden's, quote, rematch of the century wasn't going to be for a TV show, but for a big screen release, you play to all of the prequel nostalgia. Fans who grew up in the 90s and 2000s, who love these characters, they would have been there night one, had that been the big cinematic return of Star Wars after Episode 9. Because The Mandalorian and Grogu does have promise, it's way too early to talk about how is it going to perform at the box office, what's it going to look like, how are fans going to respond, but it has with it a strange kind of baggage. But you know, it is Disney's decision to make these characters, as well as I would say Ahsoka Tano, the future and the face of this franchise going forward. There was that peculiar report stating that they want Rey to be the face of it, but that is a huge misdiagnosis of overall fandom sentiment. So I guess if they're going with the options Mando and Grogu or Rey, the former is the obvious choice. But like I said, if we were starting from scratch, there were much better options for the return of Star Wars movies.
People still do enjoy going to the theater, and if you put a product out there that people are excited about, they will show up. Is The Mandalorian and Grogu that product? I don't know. I think it remains to be seen. Personally, I believe whatever the next Star Wars movie is, people will show up just because it's been a minute since there was a Star Wars movie. But I think if they don't do a really good job, or at least a decent job with it, will we be able to recover from a fandom perspective? I mean, there's a lot of pressure right now on Favreau and Filoni for this thing that was never even supposed to be a movie, I think, to really deliver at least a decent product. And it's really tough for me because whether it's Mando, whether it's Rey, whatever they pick, people have to care, right? It always goes back to how have we done making folks continue to care? And Mandalorian Season 3, I mean, it had its moments, but I can think of a lot more that I didn't really enjoy in Mando Season 3 than I did. So they just have a lot sort of working against them. And on your point, they also have to care as a company to really do right and be consistent. And right now, they're just not doing it. It's really a shame.
It should be really easy for Lucasfilm and for Disney to make money with the Star Wars IP. You know, to your average moviegoer, characters like Luke, Vader, Obi-Wan, these aren't characters that general audiences are sick of. And if they really wanted to come back with a bang, they don't have to rely on spin-offs.
As an original trilogy fan, first and foremost, it's always confused me the current regime's desire to sort of try and distinguish themselves with newer characters that they have created, as opposed to really relying on the history that the established characters that people entered the franchise always loving, and trying to tell more stories there that might resonate and be more consistent with what we might expect the theatrical Star Wars experience to be. I think this is why we get perplexed, right? It's why, how couldn't you be successful? Well, you're kind of proving it by not going back to the established folks that really, from a character perspective, that really built the franchise, and you go out into all these other directions. None of it works quite right. And then they're like, well, the fans just don't like Star Wars anymore. Well, I don't think that's true. I mean, I've had a lot of people come through my house here. I had some repairs done, coming into this room to talk to me, and every one of them was a Star Wars fan, and that was just coincidence, right? People just coming to work on the house, looking at my collection and having a conversation about Star Wars, and you can tell that it's still on people's minds. It's just, we need a consistent story, and to me, we should use characters that people love, build up those stories, and away you go. It's just doesn't seem to be on Lucasfilm's mind. It's crazy to me.
As much as a Rey movie might be okay, a different perspective with Shawn Levy or whoever's going to work on it, Simon Kinberg, I think as a character, the damage has been done. So They need to go a different direction, start a new fresh trilogy. It can be Dawn of the Jedi, it can be something very different. They can draw from legends, but they need to start from scratch and, I guess, trust the process with good storytelling for fans to get on board with those new characters. But what do you guys think? What do you make of all of today's Star Wars updates? Share your thoughts down below. And if you enjoyed this video, guys, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, check me out on socials, and may the Force be with you always.